was pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Sober in Seattle. My name is Lara, and I'm sitting with Stephan M, um, whom I've known for a long time, and actually is about 4 days more sober than I am. So, and it's our birthday month this month, so we're excited about that. Um, anyway, thanks for being here, Stephan. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for the invitation. And 36 years, long time.
That's a long time.
And when you get 4 more days, you'll see what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. You'll always be one step ahead of me, which I'm grateful for.
I don't know about that.
Oh, well, so yeah, we've known each other for, I don't know, the better part of that time. And recently have been reintroduced to each other by you answer phones down here at Intergroup every week, which we're grateful for your service. And so I'm, and you have uh, come across to me in the last few years that we've been working together. All through COVID, you came down here and answered phones, and and I was privileged enough to go through one of your Floyd workshops that you lead with your wife. Nancy, and that was a life changing experience. So, I wanted to talk to you about spiritual stuff. Um, And so, that is what this program is about, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps. And I know that when Bill Wilson first wrote Step 12, it was having had a spiritual experience as a result of these steps. And it was through a bunch of clamoring from folks that they thought that wording might scare people off, so they changed it to spiritual awakening. But I believe that spiritual experience is more to the point, or to the true intention of Alcoholics Anonymous. So I just wanted to talk to you about your spiritual awakenings and or spiritual experiences, and um, what you what you've learned.
Okay, well, again, thanks for having me here.
Sure.
And I think to have a spiritual experience that you can recognize as a spiritual experience, you have to be spiritually awake.
Okay.
And just the wording, the verbiage of spiritually awake suggests that maybe a person's been spiritually asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always made a lot of sense to me. So, just to start out with all this spiritual stuff, my idea on how a person progressed on the path of AA was came into AA, of course, like I did, everybody else, just all sorts of problems that seemed unsolvable, and no belief that I could ever quit drinking for good. And then you hear the one day at a time stuff and shrug it off, but the days turn into months and all that. So I thought the progression went that you quit drinking, and then somehow through the steps you were able to minimize the drama in your life, and then listen to the old timers talk about prayer and meditation, and maybe someday you'd have a spiritual awakening. And I don't know what that would look like. Does that mean you could walk on water, or that you would never have an issue in life again, like a perpetual happiness? And I never investigated those thoughts, but that was just the progression to me. You quit drinking, you work the steps and get rid of all the major stuff, at any rate. And then you just kind of work at the day to day stuff. And sometime far into the future, if you're lucky, you get the spiritual stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that has changed. When I work with new people, and I'm fortunate in the last 36 years, or say 33 years, I've had the opportunity to work with new people a lot. And we always start at the beginning of the book, just as I was started at the beginning of the book. And there were some sentences that are so simple, but they never resonated with me. Like on the title page, where Alcoholics Anonymous tells us what it is. It says it's a story. of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. And um, later on in chapter 2, they talk about the thousands of men and women, and nearly all have recovered. And that there was a time, and I think it was about 20 years ago actually, where I thought, well, thousands of men and women have recovered. Well, where do you hear that in AA? Where do you hear people talk about, yes, I have recovered from alcoholism? Um, in my judgmental way of thinking, if somebody were to say that, um, there would surely be judged.
Right.
Like, who's this
Yeah.
person think he is? Is he going to walk on water or whatever?
Right.
Well, maybe my journey has been the slow one, but to me, I've come to see. Oh, I got to say this too because it might be funny.
Okay.
I've heard the real cool speakers. They put out a disclaimer. They're saying, "I'm not speaking for AA. I'm just speaking for myself."
Yeah.
Except I can't do that because nobody would ever accuse me of speaking for AA. That's my little joke. Anyway, I think that being of sober mind, being of sane mind, and being spiritually awake, I think it's all the same thing. I didn't always think that way because spiritually awake people, um, they have logic, correct logic. They do and say sane things, and they're of sober mind, and that kind of changed what I thought was a recovered alcoholic. They they think sanely, they think soberly.
Can I ask you a question
Yeah.
about sanity?
Yeah.
All right. And that is, isn't that funny that somebody's asking you about sanity? But this is, when I first got sober, I kind of thought sanity. I was hoping that they meant like more than just the insanity that precedes the first drink, like they talk about in the book. Because I knew that I had more going on than just that type of insanity. I was hoping that they meant that. And then I got sober for a while and I realized, oh, that's not, they're just talking about the insanity that precedes the first drink. And so I was like, okay, that's what they're talking about. But after going through your workshop there with the Floyd information, it really is talking about sanity and having. Can you talk about sanity and what the definition a little bit? Expand on that a little bit.
Sure, and this isn't avoiding your question or being
No,
evasive,
right.
but I think sanity is sane thinking.
Right.
Okay, and I think
Not just concerning alcohol, but everything.
Correct.
Yeah.
Sane or sober or spiritually awake thinking is all from our real self, our true self. That part of us that they talk about on our coins, to thine own self be true, who we really are, not who the ego promises we are.
So when step 2 says, come to believe in a power greater than ourselves that can restore us to sanity, you mean sanity in all issues, not just concerning alcohol.
Yeah, and not splitting words. I think we're either thinking sanely or we're following the ego's guidance, which says, you can cheat this person in this circumstance because it makes sense, or you can be unkind in this situation because of whatever justification you think you have. And I think that the sanity and sane thinking, or they're just expressions of who we really are, of our sane self, that one we want to be true to. So at any rate, I remember one day I was not doing well emotionally, and I thought long and hard about it, and I came to the conclusion it's because of some circumstances in my life. And it didn't seem fair to me because, I was being a good AA'er. Mm-hmm. And so how could this stuff be happening to me? And I happened to, in fact, I was greatly disturbed emotionally, and uh, and I was still meeting with sponsees, which I decided I don't want to do that anymore. I'm just sick of it. This was in 2003, 2004, and I thought that's an interesting thought. Why work with sponsees anymore? At any rate, just some thoughts going through my head, and I met with this guy, and we happened to have been on page 42, and at the bottom of page 42, the founders, the authors of our book, they made a statement I had never really seen before, even though I'd read it 1,000 times or more. They said that they discovered that spiritual principles would solve all their problems. And it was in italics. And I thought, huh, spiritual principles. And then I started thinking, okay, what are they talking about? Because by this time in AA, whatever, I had 18, 19 years, uh, I figured I knew it all. And I've heard meetings and they talk about spiritual principles. And of course, when they read the 12th step, and so I'm thinking like honesty and generosity and all that. But I've come to see that those are effects of principles, not the actual principle itself. And why I say that is because I got real interested in spiritual principles. In fact, I even hired a spiritual director to help me because I got fascinated with them. And I found out that the word principle, in the term spiritual principle, it's synonymous with law or axiom, which they use in the 12th step. And part of the definition of principle, law, or axiom is that there's never an exception. And so going back to the big book where it said spirit, where they said we discovered this, so they didn't know it, they discovered it, that it would solve all their problems. I had problems I wanted
Mm-hmm.
solved,
Mm-hmm.
and so with actual eagerness, I'm pursuing what these are, and what I found in the course of my reading and stuff is people that think sanely. This might sound like a pretty big deal. They don't have problems because they're thinking sanely. And I'm thinking, how can you go through life without problems?
Mm-hmm.
And my answer was, I can't, not the way I think. And so I thought this was good news to me because if I think differently, and then it was pointed out to me, that's what they mean by an entire psychic change, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Not just these areas of life, but an entire psychic change.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I thought, well, okay, if I have this entire psychic change, because I don't want the problems, and I suppose I won't walk on water, but will it be this some woo woo life, Mary Poppins kind of deal? And my mentor, I mean, we're laughing because what if it was? It's got to be better than how it is now.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to laugh at that. And I found the actual awakening, the spiritual experience through the steps, just like it says in step 12. And the two big points in the steps was one, I think it's on page 62, but I know we have a book here. It's not that big a deal. Where it says, "So our troubles we think of are of our own making." And I spent some time with others on that. And so we talked about what are they saying? Well, they're saying we think our
Mm-hmm.
troubles of our own making. And um, by this time and all the thousands of meetings I've been to, I would easily, no problem with that. Yeah, there's a lot of troubles that I brought on myself. But if you read it carefully, it's our troubles. They're saying all of them. But they just think it. Then later on, and I think this is on page 153, it doesn't matter, 133, whatever it is, they said, so it's clear
Mm-hmm.
that we created our own misery. It's clear. So we went from, hey, we got this suspicion, and then we go through inventory and all that, and it became clear to them. Well, it wasn't clear to me because I believed outside situations. Hey, come on, this guy stole this from me. Fired spouse, whatever the situation is. I'm just minding my own business, and these things happen to me. Who wouldn't be miserable?
So you're talking about that part in Family Afterward where we avoid the deliberate manufacturing of misery, where they talk about that, or is it a different part?
That fits right in.
I always thought that was a grand idea if you could just pull it off, right? Like I was constantly manufacturing my own misery.
Well, in my understanding of Alcoholics Anonymous, that's always we only manufacture our own. Nobody else does.
Right.
And that was
yeah.
That was a new thought to me.
Yeah, that's a nice thought.
And I also said, well, what if it's true? I mean, let's see, have I ever been wrong about anything else? Only everything. Yeah. And so going back to this recover, nobody ever, I used to hear in AA, nobody ever recovers. And I was okay with that because I sure fit into that.
Yeah.
But what about the founders where they start out saying, many thousands of people have recovered? I didn't feel recovered. I just didn't have this. I had the sense I'm on my way, and I'm more recovered than that idiot over there. But I'm on my way, so that's good. I'm on the path. But in more reading, a more accurate reading of what the big book says, in trying to take things in proper context. Oh God, this book that you put on the table here just happened to be open to page 103 and in italics. It says, after all, it means everything. After everything, people said, no, our problems were of our own making.
What a coincidence.
Yeah.
And when it's in italics, I was told that means they're yelling at you.
Yeah, but it's a huge deal because deep down inside, I believed I knew, period. I knew what's best for me. Actually, I knew what's best for you and everybody else. It wouldn't be very humble of me to continually tell everybody what they should be doing. But I thought I knew what's best for me. Like, I'm going to listen to you. Maybe I'll do it. Even if I don't kind of want to, I might still do it. But deep down, I'm making the decision.
So I heard a definition of agnosticism one time that I think Jeffrey actually said it once, that an agnostic is somebody who believes in God but acts as if they don't. Would you classify yourself as, yes, you could say you believe in God, but really you're running the show through self-propulsion?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Although the definition, not ever to cross Jeffrey.
No, never.
In any rate. I think it comes from the probably Latin word nostris, which is knowledge, and agnostic, without knowledge. We just don't know. Yeah. And I think it's a great word because I just didn't know. And as far as the God stuff goes, I was raised through Catholic schools, so I automatically knew everything about God. Right. and I didn't have a problem. I just didn't have any solace.
You didn't truly rely on God's power, right?
Right. I relied on my power, but I could say and talk at meetings, oh yeah, I rely on God's, but not really, and not knowing that I didn't. I just didn't know. And when it was presented to look at the evidence that I didn't do a good job of running my life, immediately I go back to, well, when I was drinking, blah, blah, blah. But when it was brought to me, well, how about yesterday or this morning?
Or just a minute ago.
Yeah. And it just didn't seem right until I thought, well, I mean, first of all, it's true. I didn't do a good job. I remember the friend of ours, Emmett, where he said, or maybe it was Jeffrey, he just said, ask the next person walking down the street what you should be doing, and you'll have a better answer than what you're going to come up with. And he's laughing at me just like you are. And I'm trying to take offense, but I know no offense was meant.
Yeah.
I just thought I should be able to figure it out to do the job, but that was an asleep, a subconscious thought. Give me the information, and I'll use what makes sense to me of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I heard people that they didn't need to tell me that they were spiritually awake. I could sense it in them. I could hear it. I could feel it. They had an aura. It was very attractive. They were peaceful people, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to be at peace. I wanted to be at peace in every area of my life. And speaking of life, I had my thoughts. Okay, I got my AA group of friends and my AA life, and at that time I have my business, and then I have my family, kids, siblings, all that stuff. And I want to be a good person in each of those areas. And I remember being told, Steve, you make it so complicated. And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, there is no such thing as business life or AA life or family life. There's only life.
Interesting, yeah.
There's only life.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was in a business where, nobody would ever think there's any dishonesty or anything. I owned a used car lot.
Right.
So I used to have some friends like tease me, "Well, are you rigorously honest there?" And when I went to meetings about people talking about rigorous honesty, I found it doesn't actually say that in the book.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about developing a way of life that demands rigorous honesty.
Mm-hmm.
So what I develop as my way of thinking, my way of life, that way is going to make the demand,
mm-hmm.
not this person.
Mm-hmm.
Tell him this is the lowest I can go on this car.
Well, that makes sense. So have you achieved peace in in life?
Yes, I have. And I love it. And being awake, I was awake yesterday too, but I slept last night.
Right. Right.
So I'm finding, first of all, when I felt, oh, this is what spiritually awake means. It means I get it. I do it all to myself. And I don't think in Alcoholics Anonymous a person can claim sobriety without getting that. That's the psychic change. I do it all to myself. And for a long time, I'd say, yes, I do it all to myself. And then my next story would be how this other person is making me,
mm-hmm.
screwing me over or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was willing to actually believe that with everything, I felt this is what sobriety feels like. And then 10 minutes later, it might be a phone call. It might be talking to somebody. Old ways of thinking would show up. But through the steps, I found out I don't have to believe them anymore. And I can dismiss them immediately, or sometimes it takes a while.
Sure.
Because of the temptation, like, God, it should be cool if you're the reason I'm mad. But through daily practice, that idea gets more and more ridiculous.
Tell me about daily practice. What does your daily practice look like?
Okay, it's so cool. Okay, I get up between 4 and 4:30 every morning, 7 days a week. And I don't do it because I set my alarm. And I don't do it really because I want to. It's just when I wake up. So I get up. And this has been going on for a lot of decades. And I'm thinking, only crazy people get up this early. Mm-hmm. And I just can't sleep longer. Mm-hmm. And then for whatever reason, Nancy gets up at the same time. Mm-hmm. So we've been doing it for years. we we read um, a spiritual principle every day, and we're able to talk about it from 20 minutes to an hour.
Is it out of a book?
Yes.
Okay.
And although virtually 100% of them can be um, um, inferred from the big book too.
Sure.
Like we could spend time on the law of kindness.
Mm-hmm.
The spiritual law actually says kindness is always appropriate. It's one short, simple sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we can talk about when do we think it isn't, or what do they mean by what does the law mean by kindness? Like, would it be kind to tell that person to shut up? Would it be kind to say, yes, those jeans do make your butt look big?
Right.
You know, what's real kindness?
Mm-hmm.
And we found out there's a level of kindness where it becomes synonymous with love. And then the more we started look, and the purpose to look at this is to wake up. Hey, this is the law, and can I experience it today? And or another one that wasn't too long ago was just back to the anger's never justified. And in my old way of thinking, that would be ridiculous. I have so many examples of where anger is justified
Mm-hmm.
until I read the law. And so if the law says it's never justified, and to me it always is, if I'm angry, I've got justification for it, then either the law's wrong or my thinking can be changed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get to that, to me, the real hot potato in Alcoholics Anonymous is choice. Like, don't give me the choice to be sane or insane, because I'm used to being insane my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
But what if it really is a choice?
Mm-hmm.
God, what a gift. I'm losing my train of thought now. But if our subject is on spiritual experiences, experience with our spirit,
Mm-hmm.
or being awake spiritually, it all we have to do is be sane, because all those experiences come from who we really are. Say spirit. Spirit's kind.
Okay.
Spirit knows there's no justification for anger. Spirit's forgiving. In fact, in the book, they use the words, it's actually in step 9, and the quote something like, we go to him, meaning our fellows, in a calm and forgiving spirit.
So God has given us the power to do that, like we normally would not have, or that working at the steps has transformed us in a way where we can go to somebody in a forgiving spirit, because that's the transformation.
Yeah, we can live in a forgiving spirit.
Okay, yes.
And
so when you say all we have to do is be sane, that sounds like a tall order, right? For people that walk around a slave to their emotional natures most of the time, right?
Right, which was me.
Right, and so
and I didn't know there was another way.
I would say most human beings, and a lot of people in Alcoholics Anonymous, like we've sort of, I mean, I don't want to, for me, I just sort of missed the boat.
I was out there in the shark infested waters too. I didn't know that I didn't know.
Right. And right. It wasn't like I was deliberately living in some sort of delusionary, and causing all kinds of harm on purpose. I just was ignorant, I think, and really invested in staying that way, for whatever reason, until I wasn't, right? Until I was able to hear.
My words exactly. Mm-hmm. And
so how did you get sane? You just started, you hired a mentor, you started?
No, but before that, I had this thought, there has to be a better way to live.
Mm-hmm. And in sobriety?
17, 19 years, whatever it was. I just thought there has to be a better way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm long, at this timeline, I'm long past, hey, Steve, go to more meetings.
Sure.
I already was.
Mm-hmm.
and work with others. I already was,
Mhm.
and hopefully doing some good and all that.
And knew the book inside and out, right? Essentially,
Yeah, knew
at least the words, maybe not understanding of the intention,
but not knowing that. I mean, just doing. To me, I was doing good.
Right.
Except I had problem. I had a lot of problems.
Mm.
And how do you reconcile yourself from page 42 where it says they discovered that they solved all their problems? Well, I couldn't figure out solving any of my problems. Oh, except I didn't drink. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't out, the degrees of maybe harm I caused was a lot less. But I had a lot of anger in me. And maybe not as much anger as I had this thought that life's treating me unfairly. It just was. Mm-hmm. And I was happy to explain it to you multiple times. Like if you didn't understand it the first several. And then to go to a meeting and hear what if somebody used the topic, after all our problems are of our own making. It's clear we made all our own misery. Who believes that? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They say, I mean, they italicize it. Right. And that part where it says it's clear that we created our own misery. I think the next line is God didn't do it. And I'm thinking, well, how can that be possible? And then to me, I call it an experience with a spiritual experience. Oh, if God didn't create it and I did, that means I have the choice. I can create it or not create it. So then one of my first questions to a mentor, which I felt pretty cool having one because I know Bill had them. I didn't tell anybody any of this because that was weird enough already. But do people really seek inner wisdom, inner guidance from a higher power? And I got to see, I didn't even think of higher power in ways that others did. Until somebody said, Steve, for there to be a higher power, that means there has to be a lower one. Because higher has to be, higher than lower. So let's talk about lower power for a minute. We can call it ego. And shit, I'm right on board there. Mm-hmm. And then, so Steve, you have no problem identifying with, we'll call it lower power. And of course I didn't. My life was filled with stories. And I have some stories about what it was like following a higher guidance from being kind. I had periods of my life where that, and they said, well, that's higher, that's lower. Higher power, God, what if it's all the same? And that was just seems so simple. Like, why hadn't I thought of that before? Because I've been to the meetings just like, well, my God is this and my God is that. Mm-hmm. And, God is I define him. Right. And I didn't have a problem. I just didn't have a problem with God because I didn't know that I didn't. And when I saw that there is choice, I found choice in myself at any rate between how I was going to think about a situation. I could think about, this is so unfair to me. I can't wait to go call Nancy or so whoever and say how unfair this is. Mm-hmm. Or what if I tried to live life on life's terms? Mm-hmm. And I had a great experience with that too, thanks to a mentor. When I was asked, well, Steve, you know the story about we'll never be happy unless we live life on life's terms. Never. Of course, I can preface that with, that's not in the first 164 pages, but well known in AA. So if I can never be happy unless I live life on life's terms, what are the terms of life? I was asked that question. Okay, Steve, you're agreeing. What are the terms of life? And I'm just like blank. And I'm not saying this to be funny or anything, but I actually said, well, And my teacher said, I do. But do you? And I'm going, okay, what? So the terms of life say that every circumstance in your life, okay, everyone can be looked at as helpful if you want to see life as helpful. And I'm going like, whoa, what? He said, every situation in your life can be looked at as helpful. And if you truly look to see where it's helpful, you're tapping into a power because you'll find it. It even goes back to the biblical times. Seek and you shall find. If you want to see how this can be helpful, you may need to talk to a few people, but you'll find it. And if you see something as helpful, you'll be grateful because one emotion plays after, it is a consequence of the other.
So is that the gratitude is the
Yeah, but to
resting spot there, the sweet spot?
Yes, but I didn't know what gratitude was. It's like, okay, I've got a warm place to sleep tonight. There's gas in my car. And early on, when the sponsors would say, go write a gratitude list. Well, I actually didn't do it. I tried a couple times, but I would get even more upset because I had a lot of things to be grateful for, and I still wasn't grateful.
Mm-hmm.
So
because you wanted more, or you
yeah, I just wanted things
thought
different.
You deserved more or something. Yeah.
I didn't go too far into that deserve concept. I thought that was pretty thin ice.
Right.
But I just didn't like life.
Yeah.
The way it was unfolding in my life. Other people were doing way better, and I just wasn't happy. And then I did it's probably a smart ass thing. I'd be chairing a meeting, and I would chair it on the promises. And everybody's been to 1,000 of those, but I had this little deal where I'd pick a promise and I'd say, and we will not regret the past. And then I would say, okay, so here's the topic. What do you regret in your past? And everybody would have something to say. And in my mind, I'd be thinking, this
Sounds
is
like a cheerful
I'm in the
meeting.
fucking zoo, And until I was able to turn it inward and think, these people, unless they're lying, which I don't believe it, they're sharing their experience. They didn't regret the past. How come I do?
Mm.
And I thought the reason is because I have so many regrettable things that I've done. And then I'm thinking, they must have too. I mean, in one way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ego saying, oh, what, are you going to just pretend it never happened? La-di-da. Isn't this... Yeah, Amy Graham, the wind stopped blowing.
Right.
And so I got excited there about seeking different ways to look at things that would feel authentic inside. And that's why, to me, the steps are, they're ever growing. They're alive. It's just, I love it.
So we kind of veered off a little bit, the daily routine. So you get up in the morning and you do some reading and you talk with your wife.
Yeah, well, that's another long story. So we're either together or on the phone.
Okay. So you connect every morning and do morning meditation?
Yeah. And the meditation part, with me, I would hear people talk about meditation, of course, as long as they've been in AA. And I would hear about positions to meditate in, music, candles, altars, all that. And I tried a lot of that stuff, mantras, emptying my mind with, that's the big joke. So if I happened to have been at the meeting and the topic was meditation and I got called on, I had enough to say, to at least sound like I knew what I was talking about a little bit. But I couldn't do it. And then it was suggested to me once, why don't I ask, how should I meditate? That had never occurred to me. And so I did. I mean, I thought, this is kind of silly, so I could probably shut the door in case somebody walking by was going to look in and hear me talking to myself or something. But I had the question in my mind, How should I meditate? And um, I got a clear, impossible to misunderstand message. It kind of shocked me a little bit, like, whoa. And it was, you can meditate right now by doing some reading. And I thought, well, I'm reading's reading and meditating's meditating. But maybe it's one of those things where I need to set aside everything I think I know about meditation. Some books started coming my way, and I was reading them and I got fascinated by them. The way I share my experience was I went into the words. I mean, I can't even tell you more than that. And the more I read books spiritual in nature, the more the 164 pages of AA came alive. It's like, oh my God, they're saying the same thing, but in this way. Now I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's still going on today.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
So these spiritual books that started coming your way, are those the books that you and Nancy would read together in the morning?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And most of them, yes. And she's had some that have, there's been no interest to me. Like this one, I just, even though they all seem to say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And vice versa. But for the vast majority, yes, we're attracted to the same books because the concept is written in a way that's understandable to us, and then the help to put it into your life, which is where I wanted to go. I didn't want to just have a head full of knowledge.
Yeah.
I wanted to live it. Then also on that, there's some, just two I'll say that probably there were world-renowned teachers of spiritual principles, like Dr. Wayne Dyer. Well, he came to town. He was at the convention center, and so I wanted to go see him because I had read many of his books. And I went in there, and honest to God, like 2/3 or more of everybody in there I recognized from AA meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, what are you people doing here? I'd never heard anybody talk about this guy. I've been to thousands of meetings,
Yeah.
and all these people, and I'm going, wow. And I'm talking. I know, of course, many of them by name, and we're there are hundreds of people there, and so of course I don't know whatever the percentage was, but I couldn't look anywhere and not see people that I didn't recognize from AA.
Mm-hmm.
And then another person I read a lot of his books was, why can't I say his name now? Because I'm 70 and this is excused. It'll come to me in a second.
What books did he write?
Well, from India.
Oh, Ram Dass?
No, but but that's okay. We've read him, but that's not the
Thich Nhat Hanh.
Nancy, I read him too.
All right.
Anyway, it'll come to me.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe I'm fading on this one. Another one at the convention center, mm-hmm. and all these people. He still has stuff on PBS that gets aired. It's. Well, I'm feeling embarrassed now.
You're talking about the Dalai Lama? I don't know.
No. Dr. I just about said his name. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I found out I wasn't the only one in AA that was finding help in having my thinking change. Mm-hmm. And so just from seeing some people at these other workshops, mm-hmm. of course you hang out more because you already know them, and more lifelong friendships are formed, mm-hmm. and a stronger bond, mm-hmm. especially because there was a long time where I felt, I just felt alone doing this, and not like ashamed or anything. I just, I don't want to watch my friends' eyes roll back when I start talking about what mm-hmm. they'd call God stuff.
Right.
And because I really believe I really believe, because I've met people who have recovered in Alcoholics Anonymous, this attractive life they seem to live.
Okay, so your meditation is more contemplative sort of process for you with through reading and that sort of.
Well, yeah, how it the last several years has been, we'll read say a concept, and
You
then
don't mean one of the 12 concepts of world service. You mean
no, but we
one of
can
the
find
spiritual
those we can
principles.
find those
They are,
concepts
yes,
in
absolutely.
all of them
Those
too.
are filled with spiritual principles.
And we'll talk about it. We'll read some lectures that other people have written on that exact same thing that we're looking at. We'll talk about our day. And many, if not most of them, the encouragement is to remember this every hour, or whatever the time period is. So we don't have like a period of time, 5 minutes or 20 minutes in the morning, and then go on with the rest of our life. Because we both, well, speak for me, I came to believe that it's just life.
Mm.
No more, this is AA and this is work and this is volunteering.
Right, so you are true to yourself no matter where you are.
That's my aim.
You are sane in all aspects.
Until I'm not. and it's not about, I don't know what I thought it was going to end up being, but for me, it's not about, okay, now I'm walking on water and I found out one thing though. I still have circumstances that can require great effort to see as helpful, and I can be lazy and say, for whatever insane reason, no, this just isn't right, and I can still find the immaturity in me to say this just isn't right, which is the same thing as, God, you really screwed up.
Yeah.
Even I know this isn't right.
Right.
So the spiritual awakening or the sanity, there's opportunities all day, not constantly, but many times during the day there can be opportunities to fall back asleep. Um, in little things, because I can see how deeply I believe some things shouldn't be. Probably everybody's had this happen. You're just driving, minding your own business, and all of a sudden you hear a car horn honk, like right behind you or something. And the middle finger almost immediately goes up, like, I'm not doing anything wrong. Because in that nanosecond, I've decided they're honking at me, and I've done nothing wrong. And for, who knows why they honk the horn. So then it gets funny. Instead of me getting mad, which I still don't know if they honked at me or not, but little things like that, I could see, wow, I didn't know I still held that. Or hearing a particular view about vaccinations, about political parties, about all that. It's none of it offends me anymore. 99.9% of the time, none of it offends me, because I see they're just sharing what's in their head, what's in their mind. I do it all the time. And
so tell me about your prayer then. What does prayer look like? Or is it all just sort of prayer and meditation as one sort of
well, yeah, but not like I'm putting on priestly robes, but I think prayer is communication. And I think, in our book, it says God will constantly disclose more to us. So disclosure is communication. And so if I say, well, okay, this is the time that I pray, then what about the rest of the time? It's like, okay, God, you set aside this 10 minutes too. And so the prayer that has been most effective for me since the day I got from Emmett or whoever, Jeffrey, has been the set aside prayer. It's all it's asking me to do is set things aside. And there's no offense taken there. There's nothing to defend, because It's not saying, Stephen, think this way and not that way. It's just set it aside.
So you can have something new happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, that's still, I think, the most effective. And I was promised if I said that prayer, I'd have an experience with it.
Mm-hmm.
And probably like you don't know anybody either that said it and hasn't had an experience.
Mm-hmm.
Might not be the one we want.
Always an experience.
Yeah. So the whole spiritually awake person to me is the person that gets we do it to ourselves and we don't have to.
I like it. I like it. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Yes, this has
Happy
been
birthday.
fun. Yes, thank you. Happy birthday to you. And as you pointed out, now we're as sober as Bill Wilson was. I like that little.
I don't know the
tidbit of
day count
information.
yet, but
Right.
we're gaining.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen.
Okay,
I
Laura.
really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Was that 51 minutes? I thought you said 30. Or are we still recording?